Hey, hello YouTube, Trademark Kill here, and today we have another RWBY Talk video. This one is for episode 4, and oh my god, do we have a pressure bomb of an episode, and possibly one of the first times in RWBY I have actually felt something in my chest that something was happening. So without too much further ado, let's get right into the talk. And the first thing to note is whether this kid, this fucking child that we saw in episode 3 that I thought had nothing to do with anything, right? Apparently, in some way, shape, or form, he is either Ozpin or related to Ozpin, and his name is Oscar. Now, there is one thing that me and Crossstorm have talked about, and Crossstorm and I have we think might be happening, is that in some way, shape, or form, this kid is Ozpin, or will be Ozpin. And what happened is either A, Ozpin used the time semblance when he was in the fight with Cinder to roll back time to get himself out of danger, or and he is kind of using some sort of something else that we cannot explain yet, to kind of remind himself what he's doing, what he is. And that is going to be, he's going to completely kind of rebirth himself as this child, and then go on to be Ozpin that we remember him as, or he is going to be he removed his aura from himself via his soul, and he has some sort of the body in itself is not his and has never been his, but he can move his aura between bodies, and this is just the body he is choosing to become, or infest and manifest himself as this body for whatever reason. Now, that would be actually a very interesting character development for Ozpin, because we kind of have this pristine outlook on Ozpin. We don't have very much reason to think that he is bad in any way. We think he's the ideological good, the best possible scenario of what good could be in this world. But this will give him kind of a mix, and what I mean basically is yeah, I know what I'm doing is bad, but I'm doing what I'm doing because it's for the benefit of the entire world. And because if he's doing some sort of possession technique or something, it's yeah, you're taking away this person's life and who this person is, and you forcing yourself to live that person's life, and without other person's permission, basically. That could be what it is, or it could just be something that's not completely explained, and we'll find out later. And by later, we're probably not going to find out, because this segment lasted about 30 to 45 seconds. So if these are going to be pieced together really slowly, this is going to be, we're barely going to see anything manifest from this in this volume. So we're going to have to wait a little bit to figure out more on this. But can you talk, I jumped a little bit when I heard Ozpin's voice. I'm like, what the fuck? Because at first I was confused, we're following this little shit again, and now we're now all of a sudden you hear Ozpin. So what the fuck was that? But it was one of the coolest moments. The other cool moment is to come up later, and we have a lot to talk about. So that's all for that. Ozpin's going to be involved, and Ozpin is somewhere involved. Maybe not yet, but he will be. The other interesting thing is we get another Yang moment, and Yang wakes up from a dream where she is seemingly in the middle of Beacon's fall, but she is being basically Adam is doing the Jason walk towards Yang, and basically Yang is having all these, first she only has her one arm, then you cut back to her, she has both her arms with her Ember Celica available, she tries shooting him, it goes right through him. She has basically this nightmare of Adam, and she wakes up because of laughter, and the laughter is downstairs, and we get Oobleck, and we get Port, and Tai Yang's there, and they're having this little funny, the comedy was not missing. The comedy, this is not horribly dark and completely grim. But this is like they still are fitting in these moments of comedy, and this little, we come in late, but it's like this story about how they convinced that the dress code was for men to wear this, what they call the kilt, was just a dress, and they convinced that crow to this crow to wear this dress, and it's just this weirdest fucking conversation that Yang walks in on. But here's the situation that comes out of this, is that there's two situations. One, that Tai Yang says that if you think you're ready for the real world, then you must have lost some brain cells as when you lost that arm. But that seems to make Yang laugh, which is weird as hell, right? Because like she's still having, I guess she's having nightmares about how it happened, but I guess she's over not having it. But she also puts it into perspective when Port asks her, why haven't she tried on the arm? And that people want to see her to kind of return to normal, but she describes it as that's what's normal for her, is having one arm. And it's actually kind of a good, like, wait, what's happening versus why is she laughing at this, and then a nice perspective set. But even with that, it's still a little bit weird because she still seems to be so down and out in like 1 or 2 episodes ago, but now all of a sudden she's snapping right back into this, you know, she's upbeat, and I'm kind of want it to be a front to kind of make her father worry as much, but it's still a mismatch, and maybe more will be explained because at the end of the episode something cool happens. But it's interesting because Tai Yang wants to go after RWBY, but he can't leave Yang there alone in her current state. And Yang hears this conversation, that part of the conversation between Tai, Oobleck, and Port. But it's interesting that she overheard that conveniently, and it's so then that triggers later events in the episode, which I'll get into in a second. But yeah, as I said, there was a great scene, amazing scene, Port and Oobleck, but it just didn't seem like just the quickness on how Yang's adapting. And I guess I know, as I said, I know she said, well, having one arm is what is normal for me now, but still, just go from like having that understanding and being, I guess the time skip must have done a lot more for her than we initially saw. So we just might need a little bit more time to understand the mindset of Yang. But that's basically it. And with that being said, I'm gonna go to the fucking bombshell. So we get a brief shot of Team Ranger walking down a path and how they're talking about what village they're going to and how their luck's turned around because they haven't seen many Grimm. But then we get a nice little pan shot up to the cliffside where there's a Beowulf Grimm about to jump down below to attack Team Ranger. They get stabbed in the back by Crow. So we get our first appearance of Crow, and then we jump to the village they arrive at. He's basically in the inn across from the inn they're staying at. He's at the bar, and they're checking into the inn across the street. He's watching them through the 2 windows. Kind of cool to see that they have like an Overwatch, a guardian angel still protecting them that they're still unaware of. And it gets interesting because he gets a drink, and I knew it. And he's like, I didn't order the drink. And she's like, it's from the woman upstairs with the red eyes. Says you wouldn't mind bottom shelf. But as soon as she said woman upstairs with red eyes, I'm like, it's Raven. It has to be Raven. It's Raven. It's Raven. It's Raven. It was fucking Raven, because he takes the drink, he goes upstairs, and Raven and Crow have the first full interaction, not only between themselves, but Raven's first full interaction with another character on screen, when the only previous thing we had, which was the still unanswered post credits from Volume 2 with her and Yang, we get her very first interaction, and boy was there a shit ton of lore drops here. First off, it doesn't seem like she's against Salem, but she's not with Salem. She's basically there and working and living life around what she needs to survive. And it also seems like she's a part of some tribe, which I speculate is what Tyrion is a part of as well, because for various reasons I'll get into later. But she's not for Raven, but she's not against Raven. She knows how strong she is, but she doesn't want to die in trying to be the resistance. But she also is curious about if Salem has the artifact, or at least maybe not the artifact, but has it, which we're speculating is the artifact. And what the situation is, it's interesting because they keep mentioning family and how Crow left their tribe, and then how Raven brings up family but doesn't talk about her own daughter, and how, yeah, Raven saved Yang once, but everyone gets one, blah, blah, blah. And it's just this cool, so super fucking cool conversation that they have. And she doesn't, it's so cool. But this is the scene where I legitimately felt like a sense of dread or like angst, right? Because you have this character, right? You don't know what side she's on. And it is such a scary situation. And Cross brought up this topic that maybe I brought up the idea that we're gonna get Tyrion's a part of Crow and Raven's tribe when RWBY goes and finally has the confrontation with Tyrion. Crow's gonna have to get involved. There's gonna be a lore bomb dropped at that point that we will have a little bit more to speculate about. Because right now, a lot of this conversation was just building, not only building Raven's character, but building on things and kind of speculation that we've already done. But basically, when that fight happens, when the Tyrion fight happens, if Crow has to get involved, that's when we'll have a huge lore bomb. And that's when I also speculate that Crow may lose track of RWBY, because what I think's going to happen if this happens and the three characters all connected, what I think will happen is that Crow will have to get involved, step in to fight Tyrion, or at least protect RWBY from Tyrion. Tyrion's gonna recognize Crow. They can get into a conversation that RWBY will overhear. RWBY will hear about some sort of connection between Crow, this guy, Raven, and then possibly Salem/Cinder. If that happens, then because of the situation and some of the effects of the previous events like Fall Beacon have done to her, she might lose trust and be the negative one, if I were to say. Like I always talked about like an evil Yang situation where there's like pride and there's certain feelings and stuff that need to be explored a little bit, right? And maybe it's not evil Yang, but there is a negative and distrustful mindset in RWBY that once she hears that there's a connection between the guy who's killing innocent villages and bringing the Grim to those villages, like Tyrion, Crow, Raven, and then if they bring up Salem or Cinder or both, and she hears about that connection, that might bring an issue between Crow and RWBY, because right now it looks really positive for everyone, and and then there should be seeing a turn, because we're already past the first break of the season, so we're gonna have to start seeing where things start turning for the worse towards the end, for the climax that can set up Volume 5. Let's speculate a little bit more on the Crow and Raven conversation, because she wants to know if Salem has it, which we guess is the artifact. And that this is where it kind of sets up I want to know what we are up against. And Crow says, what are we talking about? Because it turns out Raven is the leader of whatever tribe Crow and Raven are a part of. So, and that's also where I guess I kind of fear the connection between Tyrion, because that could lead to a lot of other stuff. Like Tyrion wants to be the leader of the tribe. He turns to Salem for power. Blah blah blah. But beside that point, Crow also mentions that he doesn't know where the Spring Maiden is, and that if they don't find her, if they don't figure out what happened to her, that they are all going to die. So that kind of sets up also Raven's feelings, because as Crow said, what to which we are you referring, when Raven wants to know what we are up against if she does or does not have the artifact. Now, when Crow is trying to speculate about the Spring Maiden, what she kind of turns that around and says, well, to what you are referring to when he says we are all going to die. So that kind of gives you the basis of where Crow and Raven are in their friendship. And right now Crow seems to be the good side, and Raven seems to be like the chaotic neutral, if not bad side of the spectrum when it comes to what each character is meant to be doing in the series. Although to see them band together would be amazing. Also, kind of to give Crow more credit, is that he also seems to be a lot more worried and worried about her allegiance than she is. She's very much out for herself and her tribe, where Crow's trying to find the best kind of ending for everyone, trying to make sure everyone's okay. And that's where she stops kind of cooperating with him, because she's a lot worried about, you say, he said, you bring up family, but you don't talk about your own daughter. He asks if you knew Brienne got her arm cut off. That's a rhetorical question, because yes, but there's a whole bunch of information was spouted, and it was so cool to kind of get this interaction and get the character set for Raven going forward. And as I said, there's not a lot to speculate on, except for if Tyrion, Crow, and Raven are all a part of the same tribe. Could that be a lore bomb we get set off in the later episodes? Because that would be that would be cool. I mean, because we've had a lot of stockpiling of information, but we've had no answers, and it's pretty. At least right now, we have where we're at going right now. We have a lot of stockpile happening with no answers, or at least more. It just keeps growing and growing. So it would be pretty interesting to get that huge lore bomb to set something up to get answers. Even if we don't get the answers, to get something set up to get the answers would be ideal. But after Raven goes through her portal, which is still fucking sick, by the way, well, we cut back to Yang, who walks outside, and she actually put on the arm. And it's morning. She put on her arm, and she's moving around her hand, and the sound effects for the arm are pretty cool. But it ends on Tai Yang looking at her, saying, "Okay," and possibly the coolest, calmest, fucking best voice you could use for this. The direction was amazing for this line, and it's such a simple line where he says, "Okay, let's get started." And it's such a simple line, but how he says it sounds like such a father thing to say, but like a father, a mentor, a guiding star. It's such a good way to end the episode, because now we have now that we have Yang's evolution, so or her line to go, because we're probably not going to see her go after Ruby, which I think is the end goal for her. She's not going to go after Ruby in the season, but eventually, I think when she's done training, getting used to the arm, she will start going and starting to go after her sister to find her sister, which I think would be her end goal. And once we get the team reunited, we will have a huge fucking payoff. That will probably be at the end of the entire overall series, though. But I kind of regret this, because it makes it and it puts a foil in my evil Yang plans. And god damn it, I thought so long and hard about those evil Yang plans. God damn it. But thank you guys for watching. That's all. It's a little bit more of a jumbled episode because of how cool it was. And it was fucking astounding. But like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, Trey McCull's out. Peace.